Deputy President. So this is not about you being punished now, unless you're telling us that for a long time, there are people that have been scheming to punish William Ruto by killing the people of Kerio Valley.
That's not what I'm saying. I am saying we had a solution. We had close to 5,000 National Police Reserve. In fact, we have we'd even moved a step forward to provide armored vehicles to make sure that we can follow whoever these criminals are, right? We had a plan. Unfortunately, that plan was frustrated. And you know, the plan was, let's provide a National Police Reserve. Then, let us construct the roads. Then, let's provide water infrastructure. And then, let's provide school infrastructure. That way, you ease out people from that situation where they are today to a new environment where they appreciate education, they have food to eat, their animals have water and pasture, and then you can develop that region. In fact, in my mind, that's where the future of Kenya is, because we have huge tracts of land in that region.
Honorable
And the fact
Ruto.
that people have been fighting in that region forever doesn't mean that they should continue fighting.
Honorable
We should
Ruto.
find a solution.
Honorable Ruto, let's go back to the issue of water, and you've mentioned the Kimwarer and Aurora dams. And you say that as well was cancelled to punish you?
That
Well,
was
some of the
cancelled
court
for
filings-
political reasons.
For political reasons. Well, some of the allegations that have been made, by the DPP in court is that payments were made contrary to the law. They were not processed through the consolidated fund. That in fact, this was all done to ensure that there were kickbacks, that the government made advance payments, including 11 billion shillings in excess of unnecessary debt to, this is what they're saying, which prosecutors say were to go to, friends and co-conspirators of this scheme. If this is what you allege, are you alleging tonight, Honorable Ruto, that there is a big conspiracy between the DPP, between the courts, and also politically with respect to the Aurora and Kimwarer dams that are now in court?
For your information, Aurora and Kimwarer was signed at the same time with other government projects, signed by the same companies, funded by the same financiers, and they were signed not with me, witnessed by the President of Kenya. So these are not projects that were cooked at night or in some dark corner, right? How come that the only projects that did not go through is Aurora and Kimwarer? All the others went through. That's number one. Number two, today, the government of Kenya is in court because the contractor, with all those allegations that have been made, the contractor has gone to court to demand payment of another 12 billion shillings. I mean, that should concern everybody.
There are also suspects in court, Honorable Ruto.
Pardon?
There are also local suspects in court over the matter.
Forget about the court matter here. The contractors are in court in London, and the government of Kenya is already replying to the case in court. And they cannot afford to make it public because it's embarrassing. Why did the contractor not continue with the project? Because he was denied the land where to set up the dam. And that was an undertaking by the government of Kenya, that we're giving you a contract, we're going to give you land, we're going to give you this infrastructure for you to build the dam. And the reason given then was that, the dam was going to be in a forest. How many dams are in the forest? We have Yamo Dam. We have Yamo Dam in the forest. We have many other dams in the forest. So I think, we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's why I am looking forward to the day somebody will step forward and actually tell the country how will the government of Kenya lose 20 billion shillings that was supposed to build Aror and Kimwarer, and yet there is nothing on the ground. What was this? What was this sinister motive?
Do you believe money was lost?
I don't believe any money was lost. And even if money was lost, people should be taken to court.
But you said around 2019 that it was 7 billion shillings that was lost.
No,
and not
I
the
didn't say that.
21 that was being alleged by the DPP.
I didn't say that. Check my statement. I am very clear about what I said. I said 7 billion shillings was paid. Right? That's what I said. And for your information, I said that 7 billion shillings that was paid was actually insured. The reason we should be asking is, why hasn't the person, the company who insured that money, why haven't they been asked to pay? Because the company that insured that 7 billion is a well-connected company. That's why the demand letter has not been put to them.
So what you're alleging...
And you see, Kenyans will one day really marvel at what really happened in this Kimwarer and Aror Dam. You will be shocked.
Tell us what really happened, because what it sounds like is you're alleging the investigating authorities, the DPP, the courts. There are suspects in court at the time, including former Cabinet Secretary Rotich, who I believe was charged afresh a couple of months ago over this issue. If this is all politically instigated, are you then saying that all of these authorities, different arms of government, are conspiring against you, from investigators to the DPP to the courts, to punish you, Honorable Ruto?
Let me ask you, that matter has now been in court for 4 years. It has not moved an inch. It's been dancing. You know, this person, today you're being charged, tomorrow, no, remove this person, the next day, remove this person, the next day, change the charges, because somebody is actually waiting for another government to come and carry the shit, unfortunately. And that's what's going to happen. That's why that case has never moved an inch. Mention after mention, after story after story. I mean, surely, how can we lose 7 billion, another 12 billion that is going to be incurred by this government? And it's an act of political convenience.
You just said we didn't lose 7 billion shillings.
No, I'm just saying eventually we will. I mean, if it is not sorted out. And that's why I'm saying, when I come into office, I will make sure that the money is not lost. And I will make sure that the impediment imposed on this project, we will provide the land. The contractor will build the dam, and we will move ahead.
To conclude the matter of national security, I think we'll also touch on constitutional implementation here. Over the last 9 years, Deputy President, you have been chairing the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council. The Constitution establishes, under Article 204, the Equalization Fund, which was meant to fast-track development in some of these marginalized areas, the ones we've been talking about, and many others, to help them with water, roads, health, education projects. Why has this fund never been operationalized?
Two things. My chairmanship of the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council extends to a limit. The issue you have raised about Equalization Fund is actually in the ambit of the summit, which is chaired by somebody else, right? As chairman of the Intergovernmental Economic and Budget Council, in fact, governors listening to me today, they know that we did a perfect job, especially when it came to transfer of functions, a function that was supposed to take 3 years. We made sure that we worked day and night because we wanted to get devolution rooted and moving. We completed that exercise in a record 1 year instead of 3 years. We have since worked with county governments, and many of the governors will tell you that I have provided leadership as chair of the council on every matter, whether it was grants, whether it was matters to do with conditional grants, whether it was making sure that there is a balance between what goes to national government and what goes to county governments. The whole of that trajectory, whether the issues to do with settling matters with the former local government authorities, assets, liabilities, I have been working on that with many governors, and we have made tremendous progress, including the final one that we concluded the other day, where counties now, as entities, can borrow money. As entities, like Kipia County is the first that is going to have the leverage to borrow money. So I have a track record on what I have done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of MYKE. Now let me ask the question to the Deputy President. Why has the Equalization Fund never been operationalized 12 years after the promulgation of the Constitution?
The Equalization Fund,
window.
As Deputy President I can answer, the Equalization Fund, halfway through, there was a big argument between who will implement this Equalization Fund, because it was under the national government. The counties argued that because there are 14 listed counties to benefit from this fund, why don't we give this money to the counties? Then there was a problem of trying to get the regulations on how this fund would work out. And it dragged on the contestation as to, and some projects were implemented, some water projects were implemented, some road projects were implemented. But the argument continues to be who should. At some point, the law was actually changed to include counties beyond the 14. And that became another big argument. And I accept that we should have done better on the Equalization Fund. And that is why I have made a commitment in our manifesto that that Equalization Fund, whatever the balance of the time that is left, we will make sure that we devolve it to counties. In my belief, the counties are better placed to run that fund than the national government.
Thank you, Honorable Ruto. I'd like us to move to the next topic of discussion here tonight, and that is constitution and governance. 13 years since the adoption of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, citizens continue to complain about non-effective implementation and a weak culture of constitutionalism. Honorable Ruto, which part of the Constitution of Kenya do you think has not been implemented with fidelity, and why?
I think we should sort out the two-third gender rule. I think we owe it to the people of Kenya, and especially to the women of Kenya, that this part of the Constitution is implemented. I believe that we need to sort out certain matters to do with devolution, like the one I have said, the Equalization Fund. I think it was wrongly put under national government. It should go to the counties. I also believe that there are functions that should not have been made contingent or shared functions between the national government and the county government. Regional authorities, for example. Those are functions that we should either agree to be managed by counties jointly or to be subsumed into county governments. If it is Kerio Valley, how do we split it so that the counties in the Kerio Valley we have a Kerio Valley Development Authority. Should that be managed by the national government? I don't think so. I think it should be managed by the counties in the Kerio Valley. So these are some of the functions that I think we need to clarify. We need to complete the implementation of the Constitution. I have raised, for example, the matter of the Judiciary Fund. I think we have wasted too much time in implementing the Judiciary Fund. After I pushed so hard, this year, 1st of July, the Judiciary Fund was operationalized because I have been talking about it for the last year and a half. So these are some of the sections that I believe that we should be able to conclude the implementation of the Constitution.
Let's go back to the two-thirds gender principle. In your view, why did we fail in terms of getting this since 2010?
I think, speaking for myself, I have made a commitment, and I know it's doable, to make sure the two-thirds gender rule is realized. There are different proposals. There are proposals that require constitutional change. There are some that do not require constitutional change. And I have assembled a team of very competent constitutional lawyers to look at how we can have a framework in 90 days of our government, and within 1 year, make sure it is implemented. And it's not necessarily for purposes of the women of Kenya. It is for the benefit of everybody. The fact that we do not have as many women leaders is actually a negative for us. There is something we are losing. The women leadership component that is not in our arithmetic is actually taking away from us. I believe that having women leaders would actually enrich our governance and our leadership as a nation. And that's why, for example, when these matters came up in the BBI discussion, I vehemently opposed the fact that women were being removed from the National Assembly, where the substantive financial issues are being decided, and they were being relegated to the Senate. So I was wondering how a right that had been given to the women of Kenya in the National Assembly could be withdrawn, and they are hoarded into the Senate. So that is my commitment to the women of Kenya.
Also, on the Judiciary Fund that you've mentioned, you said you will operationalize it. But the judiciary is, by dint of the Constitution of Kenya, independent. So what is this exactly that you will do that operationalizes this fund?
You see, independence can be undermined by financial resources. The reason why the judiciary has been raising this issue over and over is because, much as they have their independence, their financial requirements are still subject to other pieces of legislation, which is against the Constitution. The Judiciary Fund is supposed to draw resources directly from the Consolidated Fund. Once approved by Parliament, that should be it. And in fact, because of the push that I have had on the Judiciary Fund for the last 1.5 years, it was actually operationalized in June.
So you do have some influence, Honorable Ruto, within this government.
If you look at, I have been pushing in the public, because that's what I said. When I said I'm going to set up the Judiciary Fund, I think somebody decided to say, this fellow is pushing too hard. Let us implement this Judiciary Fund so that he loses this card. He cannot take it to the people of Kenya. I don't mind that. So you do
have some influence.
We have achieved it anyway.
So you have some influence, Honorable Ruto? Because previously, in this conversation... Of course I have influence. But in this conversation previously, you have said there's limits to what the Deputy President can do.
I have influence nationally on pushing agendas. I may not have...
Such as disclosure of SGR
as Deputy President. I didn't push the Judiciary Fund as Deputy President. I pushed it as a leader.
Why couldn't you do that then for a number of the other issues that we have discussed here tonight, that you have said you did not have influence over.
I have pushed back, for example, on the issue of the BBI. I pushed back heavily. And I deployed a lot of influence. And actually, by God's grace, we managed to stall it. Our competitors are saying they are going to go back to it immediately after the election. But I think it was a complete waste of resources, and it was actually not made in good faith, because a constitutional change that seeks to undermine the independence of the judiciary is a dangerous constitutional change. A constitutional change that seeks to subsume the executive and the legislature and take us back to where we were in the Nyayo days is actually taking us back, not taking us forward. And that is why I made my position very clear in the public domain.
Honorable Ruto, do you believe in the independence of the judiciary?
Pardon?
Do you believe in the independence of the judiciary?
I don't know how to answer you. In fact, if there is one person who has fought for the independence of the judiciary, it is William Ruto. I am the only person with a few of my friends who stood up to the so-called ombudsman that was supposed to be injected into the judiciary, appointed by the executive to supervise the judiciary, something I totally disagree with.
You talk about you being the biggest defender. However, the administration which you have served since 2013 has been cited several times for disobeying court orders. Let me give you one example, or a few. Former Air Force commander waiting for 6 years to be restored to his rank and given 71 million shillings compensation. NYS service official injured in the line of duty, yet to receive 3.6 million shillings by the courts. There is a number of those, including the matter involving the swearing in of judges. This is an administration in which you sit. In fact, former Chief Justice David Maraga has often lamented the executive's disregard of court orders. You are the second in command of the executive and of the Republic of Kenya. What are your thoughts then around the independence of the judiciary, and why have there been so many court orders disobeyed under your watch as Deputy President?
Two things. I am an ardent believer in the independence of the judiciary. When the judiciary issued a ruling nullifying our election, I went out of my way to persuade my boss for us to go back and do the election again. Because much as we criticized that judgment, because we believed that we had won that election fair and square, but because of our commitment and belief in the judiciary, we still obeyed the dictates of the judiciary. That's one. You have raised incidences where, of course, judgments have been entered against government and they have not been sorted out. And I quite agree. And in fact, that was one area we identified even as we developed our manifesto. If you look at our manifesto, we have squarely identified that as an issue, that we cannot continue this situation where government leads in disobeying orders.
Honorable Ruto, yes, that's indeed a good matter for me to interject. Just hang on one second, Honorable Ruto. Yet you have sat in that administration which has defied court orders. We haven't heard you raise issue on that. And in fact, now that you brought up the 2017 Supreme Court petition, you were rather unhappy with the Supreme Court judges. You called them those 6 people. You called them Wakora. Does that demonstrate respect for the judiciary?
In fact, I had occasion to have a one-on-one with Maraga. And I told Maraga, an incident when I first came into Parliament. I met Paul MYKE, a seasoned lawyer and a legislator, and he told me this, which has really stuck in my mind. He told me, young man, when I first became a member of Parliament in 1997, 98 actually. So he told me, when you support a government, it also includes criticizing that government when it goes wrong. So part of supporting a system is pointing out when you think they are not doing the right thing.
Criticizing them is one thing, Honorable Ruto, but calling them wakora, which means conmen? Do you believe that the Supreme Court judges of 2017 were conmen and women?
I would want to understand in what context that wakora thing you have mentioned, because I have, if there is any respect for the judiciary, is to comply with the decision of the court. Did we comply with the decision of the court? Yes. We went back to the election.
But you haven't in many of the other court orders that we have cited here tonight.
We went back to the election. And the admission that the fact that there are so many outstanding issues, and the fact that I have singled them out and they are part of what I intend to sort out, is actually halfway the solution. I don't think if you look at the manifesto of our competitors, they have recognized that as an issue. I have recognized that as an issue because I believe in the independence of the judiciary. I believe government should lead from the front in obeying court orders. And in fact, we have said in our manifesto, if you read it clearly, it says we will look at all judgments that have been entered against government. And we will develop a mechanism to make sure that within 1 year, we comply with all judgments entered against government, so that even as we drive the country to obey court orders, we lead as government from the front.
Let's talk about something else, Mr. Deputy President, and this is with regards to leadership and integrity. Your opponent, who did not turn up tonight, said you could not come to this debate because he did not want to face a man who has no regard for ethics, public morals, or shame. How do you respond to that?
Do you sincerely believe that that is the reason why he's not here? I don't think so. I don't think so. My competitor is not here because he doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have an agenda. He cannot articulate anything to the people of Kenya. That's why he's not here. Secondly, my competitor is not here because he doesn't want to answer difficult questions. You know, he's been part of this administration, the handshake administration, for the last 5 years. KEMS happened, and many other things happened. In fact, my competitor could not come here because he's not the real candidate. He's a project.
At this moment, Honorable Ruto, just one moment, just to remind our members of the audience that they agreed to abide by the rules of the debate, and that involves no cheers, no jeers, no noise. Honorable Ruto, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please carry on.
Sorry. So, I mean, that's the reason. So these are just scapegoats. You know, he's dodging difficult questions. He doesn't want to answer. His allies, the handshake allies,
Mr. Deputy President, there are expectations that are laid out in the Constitution and in law with regards to the character and the values that a leader should have. Do you think when you go out in public campaigns and you use terms to describe your fellow leaders, that demonstrates you as somebody with great values, fit for leadership?
I have tremendous respect for all Kenyans and all Kenyan leaders. I have not in any way undermined the public standing of any leader or any person or any Kenyan for that matter. I have not called anybody washenzi. I have not called anybody takataka. I'm just a...
Kitendawili?
Huh?
Kitendawili?
I mean, is kitendawili an insult?
Uganga?
Huh? I think we have all come to understand what kitendawili means.
Mr. Deputy President, there's public perception that associates you with a rather good appetite for acquisition of property, particularly land. And this has been mentioned many times. Questionable acquisition of land, this has been said publicly, Taita Taveta, in Transmara, the former Vice President's house, the late Joseph Murumbi, and others. In fact, there was a conviction in court with regards to 100 acres of land that you were ordered to surrender back to its rightful owner and also pay some reparations. Does this public perception affect you?
For your information, that's why I am proposing in our manifesto to deal firmly and squarely, institutionally, with a fight against corruption. Because allegations are made, left, right, and center. Any piece of land that I have is legally acquired. In fact, I think we need to discuss the Muteshi land. You've talked about the 100 acres. I was a victim of fraudulent sellers of that land. What the court ordered me to do was to pay for the 3 years I had occupied the land. And they calculated and said the income from this land would be approximately 5 million shillings for 3 years. And that's what I paid. The people who sold the land to me were taken to court for fraudulently selling the piece of land to me. Those people are in court. The
Mr. Deputy President, my question was, all these allegations.
Taveta land issue.
There was that, there's a Taveta, there's Western Hotel, there's Transmara. As a person.
Yes.
As a person, what does this make you feel when you hear that there's all this public perception about you and irregular acquisition of land?
You see, acquisition of property is a legitimate endeavor. How you acquire it, if it is legitimate, you've paid value for it, and I want to tell you, I have paid value for any property that I have. Maybe the whole story has, like everything else that has been said, and all manner of allegations have been raised about many people, you know. My competitor, Dominion land has been mentioned about him, Molasses land, so many other pieces of land. Does that make you guilty? Not at all. I think the presumption of innocence and the fact that I can stand up to scrutiny. And for your information, I am probably the politician in Kenya that has been audited, left, right, upside down, inside out, on any matter, you know? And maybe because I have raised my head beyond what many people think I should. If I was a quiet business person, I am sure I wouldn't attract the same kind of labeling that I've been subjected to.
How much is enough?
Enough is enough.
Mr. Deputy President. Mr. Deputy President, we'd like to conclude this conversation with the election preparation. We're just 2 weeks away to the August 9th general election. You've previously said that, yes, you are willing and ready to accept the outcome of the election. Are there any circumstances under which you will not accept the outcome of the election? For a minute.
Accepting the outcome of the election includes going to court if you have an issue with the results. That's accepting the outcome of the election. Okay, you say my competitor has won. I have a doubt and I will go to court. Why I made that deliberate statement is because we have had a situation in Kenya where every other election we foment a crisis around refusing to accept the outcome of election. And it has cost us lives, property, and many other things. And I needed to be on record, and which I am, that I will accept the outcome of this election. I know that the people of Kenya will make a choice. If it is me, I will prepare to govern the country on day one. If it is not me, I will accept that my competitor has won. If I have any issue, I will go to court and accept the outcome of the court.
Honorable Ruto, we've come to the end of this conversation tonight. We would like to give you 2 minutes to give us your closing statement tonight.
I think it is very important for us to look at this election against what is the competition. Our competitors have run away from this debate in total contempt to the people of Kenya, because it's not William Ruto who is going to make this choice. It is the people of Kenya that we are speaking to. They have very little regard for the people of Kenya. They think the deep state is going to make the decision. They think that the system is going to make the decision. I want to tell the people of Kenya tonight that they are the ones who will make the decision on the 9th of August. Their vote is what will make the next government happen. And I want to encourage them to disregard the propaganda, the mobilization of chiefs and all these people and the provincial administration and the whole of this contempt and madharau, and tell them, tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 wa Kenya, ninyi ndio mtaamua serikali ambayo inakuja. Na mimi nawaambia, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza itapunguza gharama ya maisha. Tutahakikisha kwamba watoto wetu milioni 5 wako na ajira. Tutahakikisha kwamba kila mmoja wetu anaweza kwenda hospitali na kuwe na bima ya afya, na tunaweza pia tutahakikisha kwamba kuna maji na watoto wetu wanasoma. Tuko na mpango. Tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 waamuke, wapige kura, watengeneze serikali, tuende mbele pamoja.
Shukran sana, Mr. Deputy President. Honorable Dr. William Ruto, thank you for making the time for us tonight.
Thank you very much.
That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and the viewers here in the audience, following this at home, and of course those here as well, we have to end it here for now. Our appreciation to Dr. William Ruto of the United Democratic Alliance for honoring voters with this duty to a public televised national debate. We thank you again.
And indeed, that marks the end of the 2022 Joint Media Presidential Debate Series. The next presidential debate shall come to you without fail, and inshallah, in July 2027, at a date to be announced by the Joint Media Presidential Debate Secretariat. We thank you for watching. My name is Eric Latif of Spice FM and KTN News.
And I'm Yvonne Okwara of Citizen Television. Good night.